Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and in this video we're going to be talking about how Emilia Clarke admits that she won't be returning to Star Wars anytime soon. Of course, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop right on into it. In this video, we're going to be taking a read from movieweb.com. I'll have their article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. As a read, the bright-smiled and ever-enthusiastic Emilia Clarke has become a welcome household name since her outstanding performance as Daenerys Targaryen in the fantasy phenomenon Game of Thrones. My apologies if I butchered her name. I've actually never watched the show. And more recently in the Star Wars franchise, and now in Marvel's mini project Secret Invasion as well. She's really making her rounds, and while making the rounds for her newest Sundance film project, The Pod Generation, that's coming out this year, Emilia Clarke recently spoke in an interview with IndieWire about the prospects of returning to Star Wars and with the Star Wars universe after her last appearance in the well-received prequel Solo, A Star Wars Story from 2018. Emilia Clarke responded that she would happily return to reprise her former role as smuggler Han Solo's childhood friend and love interest, Kira, but noted that Disney hadn't made any motion to consider the possibility of really any follow-up film, a Solo 2, something that a lot of Star Wars fans would like. However, this would be likely due to after the underwhelming box office performance of Solo, which of course I have mentioned here on the channel previously before. It really is quite a shame that while Disney bases this off of really just how much money this would bring in rather than the storytelling aspects to it. As Emilia Clarke has said in that interview, that would be lovely. That would be very nice. I'm genuinely having a wicked time on Marvel Studios miniseries Secret Invasion, though they are absolutely brilliant. Ending that quote right there. Emilia Clarke has never made light of the adoration she has for her Star Wars character Kira, and even made mention before of creative ideas that she had personally complied about the potential future of Kira's character. She jokingly hoped that she could pass the ideas to Disney for a read-over, but knew it wasn't realistic and hadn't worried about it, saying that, in quote, "Kira's the one that has the most unfinished business. I really had pages about what her life was and what it could be afterwards, but I'm afraid I've heard nothing of Disney Plus's being the case, so maybe I'll just write it and send it to them. I'll be like, hey guys, I've got a few ideas." Ending that quote right there. Seeing the actress Emilia Clarke herself take a lot of interest as a Star Wars fan, not just somebody that works on these projects, is honestly really cool and awesome to see this, especially as Star Wars fans ourselves. She of course has a lot of passion overall for having a Solo sequel and continuing on Kira's story, in live action that is. Of course they've done it already in the comics and books and have had her in the War of the Bounty Hunters comic line. However, to bring this character back into live action, with whether or not it would be a Solo sequel, Solo 2, or it could also be a potential in the Lando Disney Plus show, or maybe, hey, fingers crossed that they would announce a own Kira spin-off show on Disney Plus, I think is another possibility of something that would be cool, and it would probably go underneath the title of Crimson Dawn or something like that, especially with that whole cliffhanger that we did see there at the end of the Solo movie, with having Maul being introduced and being brought back into like the play of things, especially in live action. I think would be such a neat concept here. Something they set up for, but it never went anywhere. Nothing's ever happened with it, which in my thoughts and opinions doesn't make any sense at all, really. And as I had mentioned earlier on in this video, I said it was kind of a shame that Disney bases this off of how it performed in the box office rather than its story ideals. Take maybe The Force Awakens, for example. Of course, that movie was set up to be a huge box office hit, and it still is. However, what if that movie completely and just flopped in the box office? It completely, utterly failed in the box office. What would they do after that? I mean, they already had like plans for continuing this on into an overall sequel trilogy with The Last Jedi and with The Rise of Skywalker, although despite it not having necessarily completely written out like plans and everything like that for those next two movies, it was still something that Disney wanted to do, is turn this overall into a trilogy. So So what if they went into it with the same mindset for Solo and other spin-off movies and even shows, like with The Mandalorian, of course? Really, in my thoughts and opinions, a big part of it really feels unfair, especially to us Star Wars fans that are invested in this type of thing. And I really think that goes for a lot of Star Wars fans out there, if not really all of them. I should also mention that previously before, unfortunately, Kathleen Kennedy came to the conclusion and the blame that this was because of the recast of the movies, not having the original actors playing these characters, which would be really impossible. And while that may be, I guess, part of it, she completely blames the whole box office flop here of Solo on the fact that we had recast the characters here of Han Solo and Lando Calrissian. So another part of me really feels that we're blaming this on really the wrong factors here. I don't think it was anything to do with the recast or anything like that that made this movie, I guess, quote-unquote flop in the box office. I think the two main reasons for the flop of this movie in the box office was the factors of oversaturation of Star Wars content. We had 2 Star Wars movies within the span of 6 months, that there being The Last Jedi. Of course, that wasn't very well perceived, and that even led to an online quote-unquote boycott of everybody wanting to boycott Solo and not go see it, even though that has nothing to do with the sequel trilogy all that much anyway, which doesn't make sense, Star Wars fans. And also with the fact that I don't feel like that this movie received enough marketing and promotion or even hype at that from Star Wars themselves. However, that's not the only case. There were other problems that were with this overall movie, such as switching the directors just about halfway through its production. And I guess, to be fair, the overall iffy idea of making an entirety movie dedicated to, well, side characters. Which in the end, as a Star Wars fan, I believe was a good move, a right move. A lot of Star Wars fans out there really came to like that. And we really are still seeing those side character underdog type of stories with Star Wars. It's such a prominent thing, especially. Take example for recently Andor, such a sideline random character from Rogue One that evidently died in that movie, given his own series that's going to have a season 2 as well, is incredible to see. And one of the most well-perceived and most awarded shows of Star Wars out there to date. And also taking a look at the whole Mandoverse, with the Mandalorian being a no-named nobody, now being one of the most beloved icons of Star Wars today. Also bringing back Boba Fett and having other side characters like Bo-Katan Kryze or Ahsoka Tano. Anyway, aside from that, I really digress. The article concludes with saying that aside from Emilia Clarke, there has been enthusiasm from others on the Solo's prequel cast and crew about pursuing a follow-up film. Co-writer Jonathan Kasdan has expressed interest, remarking that he'd like to help fill in a famous plot hole from the previous movie about Kira's involvement in the Kessel heist, and that she shouldn't have been involved in it to begin with. Clarke's co-star Aaron Reich is also down for a Solo sequel, stating that it would allow him to truly come into the older character of Han Solo that classic fans really recognize. However, it would still ultimately be up to the word of Disney, the big overall seer, which has been a grappling issue with the future of the Star Wars franchise as a whole. I would to mention that Aaron Reich has actually recently come to Instagram. Go give him a follow. He's really phenomenal. It's really great to see him interact with the community and get more exposure out there as well overall. Now from there, that's where the article concludes, and as I had mentioned, I have this article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. Of course, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions section down below. Do you want a Solo sequel? And if so, what would you like to see in that movie? And also, what are you looking forward to seeing with the Lando Disney Plus show? I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. My one big thing that I really want to see with the Lando show on Disney Plus is purely Donald Glover himself. I'm an absolute fiend for him, just overall. I love everything about him. His comedy, movies, music, anything and everything. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one, guys. This has been Unofficial Star Wars. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.